Anyway, okay. So again, explain how rulers employed strategies, economic strategies. These aren't political. These aren't social. They're economic. There might be overlap, but they're economic. Explain the continuities and changes in the networks of exchange. Part of this was broached yesterday. And in fact, you'll see there are repetitive slides. So, not a bad thing. Just pay attention to how the context is just a little different. Then we're going to look at how all the different factors, political, economic, and cultural, how these affect society. So how does economy affect society? What we're talking about here is the rise of class structures. Okay, we're going to get an actual functioning, thriving, beginning middle class here. We're going to start to see greater wealth distribution. We're going to start to see all the things associated with successful business. And then we're going to look at how different belief systems come to grips with this economic change, with this connective change, because all parts of the world are going to be impacted by this, and all different parts of how we live lives are impacted by economics. Again, this is going to lay a lovely foundation for you moving on when people talk about why everything should be made in the U.S. And I would say no. Not just capital. That's an easy answer. All right. As best I understand old fancy writing, that's Nuremberg. As best I can discern from up there. We're going to look at economic strategies, as our 3 former presidents ago would say. It's just fun. Economic strategies. Off the top of your head. You got one? Mercantilism or mercantilism. Potato, potato. Yeah. Mayhaps capitalism. I'm not going to say no yet. I just want to hear what you're thinking.
The exploitation of others.
Oh, he just said capitalism.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. All right. Sorry. I joke. Okay. Yes, it looks like Nuremberg. I just said that, man. Turn up your headphones, your ear goggles. All right. Yeah, okay. Leave him alone. He's on his own world. All right. Cow country. Dutch is not a country. The Netherlands. It's okay. Yes. Der Nederland, right there. The kings of economics in the beginning of during this unit. All right. Trade, again, we're going to come up and we're going to see recurring themes, ideas, information. Please don't blindly see a slide and go, Buzz, right. Discern a little bit and figure out if I know this, or this is something I'm probably not going to forget, because every 5th slide they seem to mention spices. But spices, precious metals, I'll talk pretty one day. Sugar and slaves brought great wealth. Yes, they did. And again, not a surprise. Did they just bring great wealth to Europe? No. They brought great wealth to other places earlier. But we're talking about Europe now. Again, looking at continuity and connectivity and all those words that just make me all warm. Okay. Something has to. Like energy and heart. Ooh, it's money. It's doubloons. No, I don't know what they are. But anyway, this wealth accumulation measured in gold and silver. On the periodic table, they would be what? What's gold and silver in the period? FEs, definitely iron. Oh, AG and AU, very good. Okay. This led to the development of economic strategies to increase the level of these metals. How can I get more, keep more? Silver and gold. Anyway, how can we keep all these things? None of your professors are going to sing. I'll bet you $1. Okay. All right. We'll have some grad assistant in this room with 300 kids. All right. So anyway, Wealth supported increased investment. Obviously, it takes money to make money. Capitalism is the investment of capital, which is money, into business. It's a commercial revolution. Commercial as in commerce. Here we go. Now, think of all the jobs and all the industries. The industry does not just mean manufacturing. Anything that is work is industrious. You are industrious. That are going to come from the need or from the desire to have a commercial economy. Lending institutions, storage institutions, shipbuilding institutions, insurance institutions, coopers making your barrels and whatever else. But there's going to be business begets business. Innovation begets innovation. Oh, that's nice. The commercial revolution caused by European overseas colonies. True. New trade routes, population growth, and rising prices. So 3 things come from the commercial revolution. New trade. And notice that this is talking about the colonies overseas. Tapping into new markets and tapping into new resources. But there are new routes of trade, or routes. I don't judge. And there is more people, because 1, we producing more food, and 2, people are going to other parts of the world where they have more land so they can produce more food. But also with a rise in wealth, with a rise in money in circulation is inflation. It is a naturally occurring phenomenon. All right? Phenomenon. It's going to happen. You get more money in circulation. Shopkeeper knows you have more money, and he has the finest haberdashery in all of Rock. All right? What's a haberdashery? Stuff. Yeah. Yes, it is a men's apparel store. Hats, belts, neckerchiefs, wallets. Yes. Yes. Excellent. Finest stuff this side of Vegas. No, I don't know. He's like Milan of North Carolina. But he now knows that we're all getting stimulus checks and there's more money in circulation, so his prices go up. More money in circulation leads to inflation. If you want to lower the rate of inflation in the United States, you limit the amount of money in circulation. And that's what the Federal Reserve does. And our economy should look like this. It didn't before 1929, so it went all right.
Does that also mean the value of the money goes down?
The value of money, just a little non sequitur here, is completely arbitrary. Why is a $20 bill worth $20? Because we believe it. There's nothing backing it. We believe it. So there you go. Ben, as far as burning it goes, they burn old money just because it's old. And part of it is to kind of limit. But when we talk about limit money in circulation, we're talking about lending institutions making it more difficult to get money. They just hold back. It makes it more difficult to get loans. Interest rates go up. That kind of limits money in circulation. Anyway. Also why you guys need like a real economics. But if you understood economics and geography, the entire planet makes sense. Anyway. All right. I gotta stop clicking. Okay. There's a farmer. In the 16th century, high rates of inflation was called the price revolution. Inflation goes up. Remember, the first ever global depression happens in the Netherlands over flowers. The tulip crash. Why you diversify portfolios. All right. Renaissance painting? Oh, could be retro. Oh, okay. The commercial revolution diminished the economic might of guilds. What's a guild?
Like when most people same grade like come together.
Yes, what are they today? Yeah, like a union. They make them less important because merchants, again, remember we're talking about strategies, different ways for a man, or maybe if there were a few women out there. When we get to the Enlightenment, there'll be more businesswomen. But we saw merchants and bankers emerge as successful as entrepreneurs, as risk takers. Bankers are going to lend money, they're going to take a chance. Guilds would make it very difficult for certain industries to flourish, so there's got to be workarounds. There's got to be economic strategies to get around the guild. Before the Industrial Revolution, then we have factories. Anyway, that's where we are. I'm going to stop talking. The putting out system. What a horrible name. But that's the system. The putting out system allowed merchants to get around guilds. Because typically, if you wanted something made, you had to go to the local Weavers Guild or Coopers Guild or Blacksmiths Guild or Cobblers Guild and say, I need these made. And then they'd say, here's the price that we've established. You can go around it if I, the entrepreneur, or Connor, the entrepreneur, goes to you three ladies at your home and says, look, here's the material, make cloth. And people start putting out or making stuff from homes. So now every little home's a teeny tiny factory. It gets around the regulations, so now you can tweak prices, you can tweak what they're paid. See, they're getting around unions in the beginning and lowering your wages. But again, it's about profit and getting an economy started. That's pretty. With putting out system, the entrepreneurs provide cloth and looms to rural families. Whole families get involved. This also is the teeny tiny beginning of a move away from everybody being farmers. And this is also where the term cottage industry originates. Literally from a cottage, from your house, your own little cottage industry. You can thank the commercial revolution of the 16th century for that. Which means you could thank the explorers, which means you could thank, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Ooh, pretty. No, it's not pretty. Dark, stormy seas. Okay. Now, international colonization requires a lot of money. Imperialism and making colonies is mucho expensivo. That's horrible, I know. It's very expensive. Because you got to buy the ships, build the ships, supply the ships, crew the ships. Hopefully they survive the trip with enough stuff remaining to build the houses and everything you need wherever they're going. And as we spoke of yesterday, I can mitigate my risk by not investing all of my money. All the guys here invest our money. That's a joint stock company. We all buy a portion, a share, a stock, all the same thing. By the way, I know Robinhood and those things have gotten a lot of flack for making GameStop a stupid multi-billion-dollar industry. But people like Chase and all the other actual brokers have slice programs where you can buy $5 shares of stock and kind of get started. I'm giving both my boys $100 and teach them how to do this. So you can go buy stock in Apple for $5, which is like that much Apple stock, but it's a start. You all can't be. It didn't crash anyway. Okay. It not necessarily in an hour, but it is not a multi-billion-dollar company anymore. So yes, it's a fractional share or a slice. Yep, they're really cool. And then you can buy more and more and more if you want. Or you could be like my father-in-law. Had the mindset 25 years ago to buy Apple at $24 a share and sell it at $850 a share and have 2,000 shares. Actually, he only sold half of it. He kept the other half, and then when it split, he doubled it again. You have to have time for that. I think stocks are awesome. It's fun. Okay. Ooh, this is okay. Oh, East India Company. Pretty intuitive. Joint stock companies owned by investors who buy stocks or shares. Share both rewards and risks. I just said that, so if you wrote that down, why write it again? So we're moving on. All right. In the 1660s, the British East India Company and the Dutch East India Company, boy, those are creative, were the first joint stock companies. A bunch of Dutch businessmen and bankers and merchants went in. A bunch of British businessmen, bankers, and merchants went in to get these things going. And in some cases, they are granted so much latitude that they are pseudo governments, free from the influence of their king. Just make me money and don't tell me how you're doing it. And that's how some of these were just let loose. Ask the people in India. America, in the 13 colonies, there was tight control. It was loose. And then they're like, wait a minute, we're losing money here. So then it was very, very tight control in the colonies, which is part of the reason why we're like, this stinks. All right. Again, another reason why empire is needed. Gosh, there's so much history in art. Look at how they're living and think about all that's made by hand. There are no synthetics back then. Pretty lavish, even the kids. Oh, also a fun fact. Whether they had dogs or not, dogs are in a lot of paintings in the Renaissance period. Dogs tend to be in a lot of paintings. But that requires revenue. And they're not going to work. So governments granted monopolies, that's an exclusive trading right, to certain companies, usually in exchange for a share of the profits. So Connor, you can go and run, I'm just making it up, Madagascar. How you do it, I don't care. You're the only person I'm going to let go in there. You're going to make as much money as you want, doing whatever business you want on that island. I just want to cut, and I'll keep everybody else out. It's all you. That's a monopoly. Teddy Roosevelt didn't like monopolies in America and broke them up. But now, if you're paying attention, kind of creeping back that way. And monopolies aren't good because without competition, you really can't argue. You can either pay their price or not have it. More art. Limited liability is just that. Your liability, that with which you are responsible, that's liable. What are you liable for? It's the only insurance you have to have in North Carolina on your automobile, if it's not a new car. If it's a used car, that's the only insurance you have to have. Can you pay for the other person? What this allows you to do is, but think about this before this. Yeah, go ahead.
Is that like an LLC like that? Is that what that stands for, limited liability? Because that means that they can't sue you. They only sue your company.
Only sue the business. That's correct. That's what this does. This allows, so if your business, if you're a shipbuilder and your ship sinks, like Red Star, White Star. White Star was sued for the Titanic, but you couldn't sue the people, the owners themselves, just the company. So whatever money you have personally, not tied to the business, you get to keep. That's what limited liability means. Yeah. So that way, you're going to get more people willing to invest, because even if they lose money, they don't lose all their money. And if you're trying to get your economy growing, you're trying to compete with the Spains and the Frances and the Dutches in the world, you're going to want to get people to want to invest. So you tell them that they won't lose all their money. You tell them that they can be the only person investing as long as I get a cut. You tell them that you can go around the guilds and I'll look the other way. I mean, you can give all sorts of incentives or strategies to get your economies running that aren't technically illegal. None of this is illegal, except for like the land acquisition part. But we can argue about imperialism and colonization later. And even that wasn't, back then, illegal. Governments use mercantilist systems to create self-sufficiency. That's the goal. The goal is to be able to provide all your people need, and then some that you can sell to everybody else. The goal is not to be dependent on any other country for anything you need that's truly important. But that's self-sufficiency in any definition. Being able to do what you need to do without the help of others. So you use the mercantilist system for that. You use tariffs, which are a tax on imports to your country. You use those to make foreign goods more expensive so that people buy local goods. And there are trade-offs and there are certain things you need to worry about. And we can talk about that a little bit more later. And then you expand trade. Another reason for empire. More resources, yes. More customers, too. For an economy to grow, you have to have resources at a low price, and you have to have customers willing to buy your product. And you have to have something that they want that no one else has. So, yeah.
So they were just creating monopolies for like their own people. If they wanted to be the monopoly.
Global monopoly, yeah. We want the global sugar industry, or if you're Spain, we want all the silver, or because if we have it all, you don't have any, you got to come to us.
So then, like, there's people would have to pay extra for. They would have to pay extra for stuff that was foreign. Is that what that's saying, or what?
Yes, because if you want, like, let's say we're living in England with the East India Company, and they're shipping tea back to England. They're going to pay £2. Well, if you want to get some Dutch Indian tea or some other Indian tea, it's going to be £5.
Oh, you choose the one that's less expensive.
Right.
Okay, but that's not the Dutch making it more expensive.
No. It's the taxes it's the tax. We do that too. You add a tax to the goods to make it more expensive right when it gets off the boat.
Okay. So
And that's even before you as a shopkeeper make it more expensive.
okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Did mercantilism ever like work out? Did anyone be self-sufficient?
Let's see. That's a good question. Did mercantilism make anybody self-sufficient? Did it ever work? That was the question. So now we're dealing in absolutes. Okay. Any questions out here? I didn't see any hands go up. Sam? No? You good? Okay. All right. Okay. That's scary. Oh, fishmongers. Oh, they're in Seattle. Okay. And then they're keeping the vampires away. Okay. Capitalism expands. Again, capitalism, the belief in capital. Remember, ism is belief. An economic system in which capital, wealth, money, is invested to produce more wealth. That is capitalism. That's it. You invest money in something in hopes of making more money. It's a belief that your capital will drive more capital. That's it. There's nothing nefarious here. I love that word. Nefarious? Nefarious is a good word. Better than scary. Like nefarious is darker and deeper. All right. What was I about? Anyway. All right. Somebody who's going to have a problem with capitalism, if that is indeed a choice. Capitalism based on the private ownership of property. This is true too. Capitalism is based on private ownership. You own the land, you own the raw materials, you own the equipment. That is why it's expensive. And that's why it's called capitalism. You are responsible for the entire, economics term, means of production. So if you want to open up, I don't know, anything, then you have to purchase the land. If it's truly capitalist, you buy the land and you buy all the machinery and you buy all the goods that you need to make whatever it is you're making, and you hire and pay labor, that's capitalism. The moment, at any moment, you receive any kind of help from a city, county, state, or local government, it is not truly capitalism anymore. Truly. I mean, there are varying degrees of capitalism. There are varying degrees of socialism. It's not black or white. The word is so misused and so misdefined. You can be capitalist and not free market. Free market capitalism is Adam Smith. That is no government involvement, and we decide what works and what doesn't work because either we buy it or we don't. What's up?
So mercantilism, some of it seems like capitalism, but they get a bunch of help from the government. So would that be more towards capitalism or socialism?
Well, they get help from the standpoint of we're going to remove your competition. You still have to pay for it.
Capitalism be all competition is allowed then?
Well, that's free market. That's, again, there's different types of capitalism.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
saying like the very, very extreme capitalism, the very, very extreme socialism.
The very, very, very extreme capitalism is if you're going to open a business, it's all on you. And if it's a good business, his will fail. And he'll either alter his prices to keep up with you, or he'll alter his production altogether, or he'll perish. But in true free market capitalism, the consumer dictates what is made, because the needs of what we want will determine who makes what and which business stays in. And if you look at the Constitution, the sole purpose of our government was to count the people, deliver the mail, and keep our country safe so that we can do business. But that's all the government is supposed to do. Anyway, all right. And now you see why there's people who look at the Constitution differently and look at capitalism differently, and socialism differently. Because yes, Venezuela is socialist, and it gives dumpster fires a bad name. But so is France, and they're not the same. All right. Capitalists motivated by desire to earn profits. No way. Capitalists want to make money using a free market and free enterprise system. Basically, free market, free enterprise. Little to no government involvement. It's a free market. You can make what you want, sell what you want at whatever price you want, pay what you want to have this stuff made. Just don't make my country look bad. Make me money. Because remember, at the end of the day, the crown's getting their cut because they're the crown. And please, if any other non-16th century question comes up like they're asking here, you ask. My children too. All right. As capitalism expanded, so did the entrepreneurial class, the middle class, there you go, the bourgeoisie. That's where bougie comes from. It is. Bourgeoisie, a middle class. It's new money. You have the old landed aristocracy, that old money passed down from dad to dad to dad, et cetera, et cetera. And now you got this new class, this new group of people who have just as much, if not more, money, capital than those other people. Those other people, typically old money, in Europe anyway, their wealth is tied to the amount of land they possess. These people aren't going to own nearly the land. They will own land, but not to the expanse or to the extent of those. But they're going to have more liquid capital, more money. And they're going to be able to wear the same things and go to the same places and do the same stuff and educate their children. So this bourgeoisie, this middle class, this new money or nouveau riche are going to come during this time period. And it's a good thing Shakespeare's around because they're going to need something to do with their money. Right. In the 1600s, the Dutch Republic was the leading commercial power in Europe. The financial center of Europe in the 17th century was Amsterdam. Tiny, tiny country. Economic power. This next one's just a picture. All right. And now all this money floating around, there are going to be some new innovations necessary, like these. The Dutch opened the world's first one of the world's first stock exchanges where you could buy pieces or sell pieces of your joint stock company, of your companies. So the idea of owning other people's things, the idea of buying into business takes flight with wooden shoes. Windmill power. Okay. Well, back to this picture. The Amsterdam Exchange Bank opened. Banking became the foundation of any nation's economic strength. Banking. How much money do you have in circulation? How much money are you able to loan? How much do you have in reserve? So the idea of a nation having real wealth becomes a thing. And back then, money was tied to gold and silver. So an actual dollar was worth $1 gold, more or less. No, it's not, Ben. We haven't been on the gold standards. We have not been on the gold. There's not enough gold for the amount of money in circulation. All right. Again, looking at what was traded. This is just reviewing yesterday. So now we're going to look at, so you've seen strategies, mercantilism, joint stock company, the putting out system or cottage industries, if that term bugs me. The idea of investiture, the idea of a free market and free enterprise, all these different strategies to get more money in circulation, to get more people in your country buying more stuff, which means then you have to make more stuff. Typically speaking, when there's not a pandemic, the purpose of a stimulus check is to get people to take that money and spend it, to stimulate the economy. These are recovery and aid checks. These are different animals. When second Bush did this, he had to do more than one because the first time he sent everybody money, nobody spent it. They all stuck it in the bank. So he did a second one so people would spend money. When the Obama administration did it, it was to get people spending money. For the reason I just alluded, you buy stuff, they've got to make stuff. Well, to make stuff, you got to hire people. When you hire people, now they have money to buy stuff, which means you have to make stuff, which means you have to hire more people. And it's an upward spiral. That's how you go from a market crash to a depression. It's the opposite. All right. Here's our trade routes again. Again, these are going to be impacted, slightly different, slightly similar. We know these routes. Again, does not entirely obliterate these networks. We talked about this yesterday, but significant changes occur. And we answered this yesterday. We spoke to this yesterday. The focus is going to go in a different direction. The need for these people to be the producer of a good is going to be diminished because other people are going to be able to produce them. England and France, specifically, a little bit with the Dutch, and not so much with the Portuguese, not so much with the Iberian Peninsula anymore. Portugal and Spain are in the downward decline here. But England, France, and the Dutch are going to plant flags and manipulate and work markets to their favor to the detriment of these groups. To the detriment of the African kingdoms, to the detriment of the Ottomans, to the detriment of the Safavids while they're alive or are going, or the Mughals. Come on. Oops, Muslims continue to play a role in here. And like I said before, that cooperation before was much more political. This is now an economic cooperation. Even though it's the same slide, how it is similar won't change, but how it is, I mean, there can be different reasons for this cooperation. Yes, in this case, it's economic, but if you're getting along economically, chances are you're not going to have an issue politically, so you're not going to fight. And the Muslims aren't going to go away because there are a lot of them, and because they've been there, because those networks are established. Yeah. And then Portuguese again. Gradually, Indian Ocean shipping and our own trade routes of Europe begin to dominate. So eventually, Europe is going to get a larger foothold. It's not going to stay Muslim forever. That just makes sense. Because all this commerce, all this market revolution, all this mercantilism is putting more money into those kings and queens, which means they're going to have the money to buy more ships. And because of colonies overseas, they have the resources to make more ships. So just as you become more wealthy, you're going to be able to expand more and more and more. China continued to play a major role in trade in East and Southeast Asia and along the Silk Road. China is going to be limited because that's the extent of their world. By choice. If they're going to talk to you, it is because there is something you possess they care enough about to grant you an audience. They're not going to go out and seek an audience. They're China. Europeans took advantage of isolationist policies in China and Japan, and they begin to encroach here in South Asia, Southeast Asia, in Southern Asia. They begin to move in. Eventually, they're going to go to China, and they're going to knock on Japan's door for trade, customers, market share, market share, market share. And then there's your different colors. And of course, there's Russia just trying to be big. Russia just wants that warm water port, man. They see some place to send my ships when it's, not August. Europeans had little success moving inland from the Afro-Eurasian places for lots of reasons. One, remember, they armed the natives to get slaves so the natives can put up legit resistance. Or you can be Shaka Zulu, which just be a beast and put up resistance with spears. Two, the diseases that the Europeans were immune to, or to which they were immune, aren't here. Here are different diseases that Europeans have never seen before. And so Europeans died by the boatload from various diseases in Africa. Plus, it's big. Africa, again, this is a lie. Africa is 3 times the size of the United States. It's like huge. Like Africa is wrong. Africa is much larger than Europe. South America is much larger than North America. These maps are all wrong. Africa is huge and not a country. Oh, it gets on my nerves. Oh my gosh, it gets on my nerves. Okay. What?
Who says Africa?
Lots of people say Africa is a country.
It's African dude on Gang the Dude in Africa that said Africa was country after Europeans and he lost thousands of dollars.
The Europeans sought wide variety of Asian products, but Indian Ocean merchants wanted silver and gold and very little else. Again, there's very little that the Europeans made in the beginning, before this market revolution that China cared about. But gold and silver, who doesn't love gold and silver? So as long as you had that, you had a toehold. So that's why in the beginning, Spain worked, because they had the silver. Ooh, pretty. New World silver became the global metal of exchange because there was more of it, and the Spanish had it. So silver got you spices, silver got you silks, and other commodities. And there's your modern trade routes. We talked about this yesterday. Regardless of continuities and changes in the Indian Ocean, the volume of trade eventually just blows up over here. So regardless of how much stays the same, and regardless of positive or negative shifts in Indian Ocean trade, the volume of shipping, and more to the point, the volume of profit in transatlantic shipping just surpasses it and buries it. And also, because the countries involved are so vital everywhere in the world. If the Ottomans had not necessarily colonized out here, but traded, like if they had just left the Mediterranean and had the foresight, and there's lots of reasons why. I mean, then maybe things are different. If Charles the Hammer Martel doesn't stop the Muslims from going into France, maybe things are different. So, I mean, there's all sorts of little minutes in history. If one of the 11 attempts on Hitler's life was successful while he was in office, I think some crazy number like that. What if, I don't know, what if Archduke Ferdinand's car had reverse? I don't know. So, okay, social changes. The politics and economics associated with the Atlantic slave trade had an enormous social impact on Africa. No kidding. African economies focus on transatlantic slave trade. So this is also a lovely sort of a crossover in the AP Helg, or into countries now. Countries who are good at one thing can be successful. But if you invest all your resources into one industry, the potential for failure is greater, because once this demand dies down, or once you leach your country of that resource, then it's not going to work for you. Work for you anymore.
Didn't that happen to like the small island of Nauru? Like it became the world's richest country, but per capita because of the phosphorus there. But then it ran out. To
Yes. Okay. Again, slave fortresses up the coast of Africa on the slave coast. West conflict in West Africa. Militaristic states come into existence. They're there today. Part of the reason for the conflict in the various African countries now can be traced back to here. Again, African societies like the Dahomey and the Oyo grew rich by selling Africans to European powers, and theoretically obliterated, totally decimated, there's the word, other cultures from the face of the African continent. And then again, here's your slave flow chart. The one down here is interesting, that 37% of most slaves in North America are Angolan. I've always seen this part, where they went. I've never actually seen from whence they came. And that's kind of fascinating. Benin and Angola make up 62% of the so the ancestry tracing it back to the African, to the Black population in the United States, or in the New World. 62% of the entire population can be traced back to two places. So imagine what that does to those two places moving forward. If 37% of all slaves are Angolan, but what percentage of the Angolan population was taken? And typically, when it's not the criminals, it's able-bodied people. It's sort of like, no, it's not. It's nothing like. But by way of an example, when you look at England or France or Germany from 1914 to 1939, or from 1914 to 1945, they lose two entire generations of a working class, child-producing populace. So, and they're industrial, so they can absorb it. But if you're trying to develop anything, or if you have the wildest dream to develop anything, and that huge swath of your population is taken, then how can you possibly develop? The African diaspora spread most of African men to the Americas, led to depopulation in Africa and a weakening of the patriarchy. And it also sets up an interesting thing with Islam. And maybe we'll get into more of that towards the end of the course. But we know slavery is horrible, and I'm not the big. There are so many sides to the horrible. I mean, Africa's entire development has been stunted by slavery in both directions. Two-thirds of slaves were men, so remaining men often practiced polygamy, taking multiple wives, and women were generally empowered. They had to be. So this is one social change that I like the fact this is brought up, because in regular world history class this isn't brought up. And typically when you think of the social changes economically, it's on the industrial side. Yeah. No. Polygamy is more than one wife.
Yeah, so there's more men than women.
No, 2/3 of the slaves were men.
And after the people who stay in Africa practice both less men and African. And then after was the big one.
There's
Oh, so remaining men.
yeah, remaining, a third remaining, yes. Yeah, a third remaining. Yeah. All right. Despite loss of population and slavery, the new foods introduced through the Columbian Exchange actually led to population growth. Melons, rice, because sweet potato, things fall apart. All right, it's the yams, man. It's all about the yams. All right. Establishment of maritime empires in the Americas had again, we know this. The native populations on the fringes, on the periphery of this economic development suffer. I'm not trying to underscore it, but this is not, I'm just speaking more from my handwriting. Yeah. Oh, just rubbing your eyes. I just thought it was like a question, then well, let me rub it on the way up. All right. After conquest over Aztecs and Incas, most powerful Native American tribes, Spanish, took over parts of North and South America. We know this, well as other places. The Viceroyalty of New Spain, the Viceroyalty of New Granada, the Viceroyalty of Peru, and the Viceroyalty of La Plata. All right, there you go. So we are New Spain. Who's the orange? Spain set up 4 viceroyalties that represented the Spanish crown. Oh, I get it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. Oh, sorry. Okay. Spain established audiencias, or royal courts, to regulate the viceroys, which allowed settlers to challenge their decisions. So what you start to see, again, Spain is way over here, but if these countries, if we're going to make decisions to help our colonies grow, we cannot wait for mail. So you establish local governments, which works great in the beginning, but eventually they come back and bite you if you're Spain. So the audiencias, and again, the audiencia, I should learn Spanish, are analogous to like the House of Burgesses or any other, or in India with the Sepoy, any other group, oh, sorry, the Rajas, that allow local control of territories just to expedite economic growth, really, and dealing with disputes. So the king's not burdened with it. Spain attempted to destroy Amerindian culture by destroying written records. Few accounts remain. This is cancel culture. It is. What we're going through is not. To remove, so this is also genocide. This part is. The initial disease part, not. But to try and get rid of them completely and to wipe away their existence, you're also taking away any sense of self or independence from the people under you to make them easier to control. So it's very calculated, very mischievous, very dirty, but it is what it is. Spanish and Portuguese languages eventually replaced many Amerindian languages. You know that. Spain intended to convert natives to Catholicism, made them Spanish subjects. Again, these are all social changes. All right. What time is it, Mary? Yeah, we're good. We'll finish this bit of 4-5 and go into 4-6 tomorrow. It's belief systems, but again, if you know the cultural changes, what happens to the belief system shouldn't surprise you. If you convert people, so from the conquered end, their belief systems get altered completely. From the middle class end, from the English, French, Dutch, Spanish end, not so much Spanish, but English, Dutch, and French end, this wealth is going to allow you to be educated. This wealth is going to allow you to be readers, plus the greatest invention of all time. You can get more hands-on books, and you're going to begin to question how things are done. And the people who go and settle are going to question how and why they're being ruled the way they rule. So you can kind of see where, from having money begets opportunity, opportunity begets other changes, and this is where we are, and this is where we'll pick up tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll pick up with the effects on the belief systems. I will edit and post this today, and then we'll go through, and again, because of all these changes, think about this. We talked about social changes, we talked about economic changes, we talked about effects on belief systems, and the next unit is internal and external challenges to state power. Well, that foundation was laid today. These changes are going to eventually threaten the power from within and from without. And that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. So I'll leave you with that. And if you have any questions, I'll be here. Enjoy your lunch. Go eat outside. It's gorgeous. And I will see you all tomorrow. No, we cannot eat outside.
Mr. Story,
Yes.